Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy. Using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the deferred sales trust is an amazing way for you to exit highly appreciated assets, defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax so you can create and preserve more wealth. Help your clients, friends, and family do the same. We're also streaming on expert CRE secrets. We appreciate everyone out there. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He is a masterful, world-class expert as it comes to reaching new levels of efficiencies and operations. In fact, he is the CEO of Sharper Business Solutions and has spent 13 plus years as an executive in a Fortune 500 company where he handled the process of evaluating companies' operation expenses and helped them to reach new levels of efficiencies. He began investing also in real estate in 2004 and has taken his expertise in business systems and process management and developed a proven program to help real estate investors position themselves to scale their businesses to new levels. I am beyond excited to have our next guest, Gary Harper, on the show. Gary, how are we doing, brother?
Good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate you being here with you.
Absolutely. If our listeners get to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, sure. Gary Harper. I started off in corporate America around the age of 18, 19 years old. I moved out of my house at 16 and got on my own around that 16, 17-year-old age, and then got married, had 2 kids, went to corporate America. Worked really hard to grow that, my career there, and ended up becoming an executive there at a Fortune 500 company. By the time I retired in 2011, and then went full-time in real estate for a while, actually got sick in between the two, almost passed away from Lyme disease. And that kind of like feared my transition from corporate into self-employment. And me and my brother-in-law started doing a bunch of real estate together, got up to about 300 deals a year by 2016. Retired at a young age and decided to start helping other people. So part of the journey of when I got sick was really found my purpose, and my purpose was to rise by lifting others. And I told God that if He gave me my life back, I would give it back to helping others, especially for in the Christian world. So I ended up starting Sharper 2016. It's been over 7 years now, and we've helped over 2,400 businesses here in the last 7 years. Our purpose at Sharper is to do a good work that supports God's work. And so we measure the quality of the work we do to help entrepreneurs. And in return for that, we take the money we make to be able to give back to God's work in some capacity. So a little bit about me. I've helped over 2,400 businesses now. Sharper's an ecosystem of over 12 companies that we provide solutions to the entrepreneur in the world today. And I have a bunch of other companies that are outside of Sharper. I have a horse breeding company. I have a curriculum company, an education thing. I have different stuff like that I dabble in as well as a serial entrepreneur.
Absolutely amazing, Gary. And before we dive into how to rise to your 100%, I want to take one other step back. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life. These gifts have been given to us to be a blessing by God and help others. And so you've kind of touched on some of this so far, but maybe go back to the earlier days, Gary, where you said, wow, I feel like I have this gift. Like, what are those 1 or 2 gifts that you believe you were given, and how does that help how you specifically help people today?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked the question about the gift. I always found, and in 2011 when I got sick, I was like, what did I do with my life, right? Like, one thing you want more at the end of their life is, you want time. And so I was like, what did I do with my life? And was I a good steward of the time God gave me? And ultimately asked the question around purpose. Like, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I trying to accomplish? And I found that purpose shows up in 3 areas, and it comes together, and it can change over time. But one comes from the past. What do you love to do, right? What do you have experience with that created a passion for something you love to do? The next is the future. It's like, what I want to be remembered for. Like, what's going to happen at the end of my life, and what am I remembered for at the end? And then the present, this moment right now, gives us a gift, right? The present is a gift. And when I talk about that present and being a gift, I mean, what gift do you have or you have been given that you could give back to helping other people? And so going through corporate America for 13 years, learning business process management, learning systems and operating systems, learning how to be a good leader, learning how to hire and fire, learning how to improve the efficiencies of a company, learning how to improve our marketing, our strategies, things like that. All those things kind of came together when I started my own business, and I started using them there, which I think is what helped us scale and rise to our 100% properly. And so then marrying those 2 worlds together, what my gift was and what my passion was and the things I attained from the past, Taking the gift I had today, along with what I want to remember for, really to help gel my purpose for me, which is to rise by lifting others, and with Sharper to do a good work that supports God's work. And I can see clearly how my personal purpose is being achieved with my company purpose. And I think that's really important to have. And so now we give our time, right? We give our time back to helping other entrepreneurs be able to find that freedom within themselves, get the right systems and processes in place to be able to help them scale properly.
And let's just talk about that, because I think this is an epidemic, right, or pandemic, or however you want to put it. I mean, there's probably a proper word for that, right?
Yeah.
Where there's entrepreneurs that have huge vision, that are growing, and that are going off the rails because they are talented, they are driven, they are passionate, they have that purpose, but I've heard a saying that momentum is a more powerful force than all the leadership strategy and resources combined. And that momentum, although it's ignited by vision, and it's fueled by faith, it's sustained by systems, right? It's sustained by systems. So Gary, what is the number one secret to sustaining momentum as it pertains to systems and operations?
It's accountability. Like, it's accountability of that momentum on a daily basis, whether it's losing weight and you have a system of losing weight, or it's a business operating system. Like, all that falls apart when you have no accountability of that, right? Nothing's being measured on a regular basis. So I think accountability is by far the most critical thing when it comes to a business operating system or any system that you're trying to use, to make sure that it's being used the right way and you're a good steward of the system you were given.
Okay, so let's dive into that. What's the best way to implement accountability daily with the systems and processes you've built, especially these new ones, right? You're like, oh, you go to this conference, you see Gary, and Gary talks about what needs to have happened, right? And you get home and you get to the office and you're like, okay, we're going to do this thing. And maybe you get some momentum going, and then it sort of just tails off and you're back to the old way of doing things.
Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I struggle with any type of accountability when I don't have an accountability partner. I think that's why it's important to have a coach. I think it's why it's important to have a mentor or somebody, a mastermind, something that you have to go back and report to. I've lost 125 pounds in the last year and a half, almost 2 years now. And I've hired 7 different types of coaches. And the ones who have helped me the most was, a company, Aaron and Cole Taylor, with the starting line. And their system that they have, I call it the body operating system. And it's a high level of accountability. Like, on a daily basis, I have to enter my macros into an app, right? On a weekly basis, I have to measure my performance. On a quarterly basis, I got to see what I'm profiting from this area and what results I'm getting in regards to my body, my blood work. And then ultimately, is it achieving my purpose? Am I doing these things daily that create weekly, that create monthly, that create annually? A purpose-driven type mindset. And so when we get the momentum going, right, we have to keep it going with accountability. So business operating systems are not different. You start with a purpose, right? Because the purpose creates a passion that creates the motivation. Then you got to be like, all right, what are the profits I need to make to keep me motivated? And then what do I have to have performance-wise to make the profits that hit my purpose? And then what processes, things do I have to do tactically every single day? Like, how many appointments or how many offers or whatever your tactical process steps are that get you the performance, that get you the profits, that drive to your purpose. And so I always tell people, if you want to stay motivated, right, create accountability around those 4 categories of KPIs. And when you have that motivation, keep it with measuring them daily. That measures them weekly, that measures them monthly, that quarterly, and then annually, hitting that purpose. So if you build down properly from purpose and you measure up properly from process, you'll hit purpose every day with every process that you complete.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I met you at the Rod Cleef multifamily boot camp here in Orlando just about a month or so ago. And I was blown away because I felt like you guys approached it differently. And this is part of why I wanted you to be on here. And by the way, if you want to learn more about Gary Dale Harper II, you can go to sharperprocess.com, sharperprocess.com. And this is the key that I heard there, that not only do you share the idea and obviously articulate it very well, but the difference with you guys is you are getting hands-on with the businesses doing this and implementing this. So talk about the Sharper process to helping entrepreneurs implement and stick to this kind of thing.
Yeah, going back to our curriculum is RISE. It stands for Resource, Inspiration, Systems, and Engagement. And we talk about like why we have to have those 4 quadrants, right? And so in order to get to your 100%, in order to reach your purpose in life, your business's purpose in life, you're going to have to go through quadrants and you're going to have to get there. And so Harvard Business Review talked about like scaling to your 100% or business maturity. And it talked about there was 5 phases of business. Well, the RISE business curriculum talks about the bridge that gets you from one of those phases to the next. And so we have to have the right resources in place. We have to have the right inspiration, the right systems, and then proper engagement. I find a lot of times people want to go the other way, where they start with a product, a passion, and then they go straight to engagement and they start marketing and trying to get that going. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but they try to scale too fast, right? And so you've heard the statement, you grew too fast. And the truth is, that's not a thing, right? Really what a thing is like you can grow wrong. And if you go from like product straight to engagement and then try to build the systems and then try to create goals and then try to get the right people, you're doing it wrong. And what we want to do is get the product, make sure it's viable, and then get it into resources, put time, money, and people, then inspire those resources, then get the systems around them so you can let go, and then expand through marketing and sales, right? So that's what we want. We go in one-on-one to be able to work with entrepreneurs. We have events too, right, where we work with teams one-to-many. But most of the time, we've spent time in people's offices evaluating their business around resource, inspiration, systems, and engagement. And we help them dial that in and ultimately make the right adjustments for them, create the right accountability to help them grow. So the way it kind of works for us is we come in first with a team. We do resource day first, which talks to time, money, and people. So we're building accountability charts. We're building organizational charts. We're building process ownership charts. We're looking at the predictive index. We're making sure people are in the right seat. We have a 9-box system of evaluation to tactically know that they are in the right seat versus this guessing game that a lot of operating systems do. Then we look at the finances and we go, all right, what do we have financially? Where are we at? What do we need? How many people do we need? Can we afford those people? And we do what we call a business performance on that day. So that full day is about resources, time, money, people, and what time frame are we doing this in? Then the inspiration happens and systems days happen at the end of 90 days. But in between those 2 90 days, we have somebody that runs your weekly meeting for you that create that accountability, right? And then we have somebody else who helps you document your processes, your core processes, so that when we come back from a strategic perspective, we know what to adjust. And so at the end of the 90 days, we've run 13 meetings now. We've probably documented 5 to 7 core processes. You've got the right people set. You got people sitting in the right seats, or you're making the adjustments to get them in the right seats. And you know who's accountable for what. You know who's accountable for what processes are in your business. Then I come back with inspiration, right? We create core values. We create purpose. We create long-term vision, short-term vision. We're driving the results of the company with that. The Bible says there's no vision, the people perish. And so it's important. I mean, businesses aren't immune to that. It's important to have vision. And so we have to have inspiration for that vision. And then systems, right? Systems is important too, because now we got to let go. And how do I let go and not lose control? So that's important. So then now we're creating those KPIs. We're looking at the processes and we're pulling out the key process indicators and the performance indicators. And then we pull out those financials and look at the profit indicators. And we make adjustments on our strategy based on profit indicators. And then we're constantly checking in on that purpose that we created with the inspiration. And so we're also looking at meeting structure. How do we communicate properly? What is our daily meetings going to look like? What is our weekly meetings? Or we call them tactical meetings and organizational meetings on a weekly, and the strategic meetings on a monthly and quarterly, and then our purpose, our culture meetings at least once a quarter, where we're driving the culture in the business. And so we're creating the right structure, right? We're creating the right KPIs. We're creating the right meeting compilation. And then we get into documenting the processes a little bit more. We pull those core processes that you documented out, and we start to look at them with a 9-box, and we go, all right, 9-box wise, is this valuable? Is this process that valuable to my customer? And is it essential for my business? Is it valuable and is it essential? If it's not valuable and it's not essential, then we want to get rid of it, because we don't want to document from the process, the procedures, if there's waste in the process. We want to lean it out. And so that's the difference, right? So process is what you do. Procedures are how we do it. Policy is then when you do it. And then we drive productivity. We get rid of the waste and drive the productivity of the organization. We have ways in which we manage that. And so that's what the first 90 days look like. And then we keep running your weekly meetings. We come back every 90 days to create a new strategy for the next 90 days. And then once we've hit a point of almost dialed in the resources, we've dialed in inspiration, we've dialed in the systems, then we've ETR'd it. We've earned the right to expand. We've earned the right to go to engagement, which is where we start to come in. We spend 8 hours building the brand, the marketing, the advertising channels, the sales, all those things. We're looking at building all brand guides, all that out, and making sure that we have the right plan to expand and grow that business.
My mind is blown, and I've taken like notes like a madman here. And by the way, you should rewind that or just go to sharperprocess.com to get started, because I feel like this is so missing. Like I think you're exactly right when you said in the beginning. Most people they're just launching and they're just marketing. And I'm speaking to myself here, right? Like, I mean, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, like we have this brazen opportunity, but yeah, you either haven't hired the people, got the KPIs, got the systems and processes in place, basically built the foundation before you're just building the house on sand, right? Because if the house is on sand, it's no matter how cool the house is, the storm's going to come and it's going to wipe it out. So, I mean, Gary, like, where have you been since when I started the company, like, 7 years ago?
Oh man, I tell you, I've been out making a lot of mistakes. A lot of different people trying to implement systems that didn't work, right? So like that's why I wrote this, right? That's why I wrote Rise, is because I've been implementing business operating systems, over the last 10 years. Whether it was Traction or Scaling Up or Make Big Happen or Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, they're all good systems. Scrum, 13-week year. But I didn't find anything out there that you didn't have to leave one of the operating systems to go to another one to go through the different phases, right, of business. And so like I wanted something that bridged you all the way to your 100%. And so like after coaching now for 20 plus years, it all came together, right? It all finally came together. I've written 2 books about it. One is a fable called The Journey of Rise. And that is about a guy named Matt Wellington who leaves a corporate job and goes and starts his own company. He's in real estate, and how he also, at a conference like we were at together. And then he hears Reggie, a business coach, and Reggie's, a Rise coach, and he comes and helps him implement the Rise system. And Matt's able to scale to his 100% and reach his purpose. And that's a fable. And then the other one is a 4 quadrants of business success. And it's literally the tactical guide to what we're talking about. It's 67,000 words, 240 plus pages that allow you to literally step by step go through implementing the Rise business framework yourself. But again, you can lose momentum without a good mentor or coach. So like it was something I wanted to give back to the world. So it's there and people can use it. And both of those books actually are being published by Game Changers. And it's pretty neat. I think November the 14th at 6 p.m., we're going to have a virtual launch party on Zoom. And I'm excited about that because we're going to be getting these books to the world. One's about 53,000. The Fable's about 53,000 words. They'll be on Audible. They're going to be in Barnes & Noble. They're going to be in Amazon. They're going to be a little bit everywhere. But you guys look out for those. Those are on their way. And we're trying to get the tools to one to many. I can only help so many people. And Brett, I want to be able to help more, right? And so this is a way to be able to do that.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm getting both of those books, and I believe you also help Rod Cleef, right? Isn't that he's one of your? And Rod, if you don't know, he's one of the top podcasts and one of the best multifamily mentors and coaches in the country, and helps people create and preserve wealth with multifamily. So shout out to Rod Cleef. So wow, what should I be asking you that I haven't asked you so far on that, and or how would people get started and or potentially apply for your services, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, going back to Rod, first of all, big shout out to Rod. Rod's a phenomenal person. And if everybody had the mindset Rod has, their business would be a lot better off. I don't know if you heard him about at the conference. He's like, I'm really good at what I'm good at. What I'm not really good at is running a business. And he's like, that's why I have Gary. And he said that openly. I wouldn't have said it again if he hadn't. But what a great mindset, right? I always say there's 4 reasons why we don't grow. And here's the reasons. If you're listening to this today, you're struggling with one of these 4. Number 1 is fear. And it's our job, guys. It's our job as entrepreneurs to replace fear with knowledge. And we have to overcome that fear with knowledge. The Bible actually says, do not fear, like 365 times, right? And what is the Bible? The Bible's truth. It's knowledge. That's what God is. And so I've always found that replacing fear with knowledge helps us to grow properly. And so replace fear with knowledge and sustain it with faith. Once you have the knowledge, sustain it. Next is mindset, right? Like, what are you doing to let go? What areas do you need to adjust? Where are you spending time in the business you shouldn't be spending it in? Who should you be hiring, right? Like what products should you be pushing? Those are the mindset adjustments we have to make. And number 3 is connections, right? Like there's no way I'm on this podcast if I didn't take time to meet Brett, get on the podcast, make connections, meet people at Rod Cleef's event, meet Rod, right? Those people. And it's funny. I actually met Rod at one of my other customers' events. So I actually coach Ryan Pineda with Wealthy Business or WealthCon, and he was at that conference, and that's where we saw each other. And I'd met him before at Collective Genius, who I also have coached, and Steve Trang with the Real Estate Disruptors, and Tiffany High, and other people in this industry, Chris Miles in finance, and money ripples. And so it's interesting. Like these are people I've had the opportunity to coach, but they've also opened up opportunity for better connections. And then the last reason why we struggle, the last thing we struggle to scale with, is because we don't have the right systems and processes. Guys, I'm telling you, like you cannot be the single point of failure in your own business anymore. You've got to get the right systems, processes, people in place that allow you to let go without losing control. And if you don't do that, then you're going to be a career entrepreneur instead of a career business owner.
Absolutely amazing. Gary Dale Harper II, sharperprocess.com. That's sharperprocess.com. His new book's coming out soon. It's like mid-November. You're gonna want to get a copy of that. I'm trying to think of the one question someone wanted me to ask you right now, Gary, that you haven't already just articulately and amazingly laid out for us. Maybe just a success story, right? I mean, those are Rod and Ryan. Those guys are amazing, right?
Yeah.
Give me one that's recent, right? And maybe that's kind of fresh. And how it's turning out, and any speed bumps, anything that they can do to prepare before. It's like, hey, can you show up as you are, Gary? Like no judgments kind of thing. Like walk us through like what would be an ideal entrepreneur right now to hire you.
Well, I mean, the earlier the better for me, because when you have gotten to a certain level, like there's a lot of breaking down and redoing things that have to happen. And so I don't want to scare anybody away from that. We do it in a very methodical way that doesn't disrupt the business, but it is a lot longer of a journey, right? The longer you're into it, the longer it takes to make the adjustments. When you're younger, when you're in a business, I say younger, meaning the business is younger. It's important to get us started as fast as possible with a mentor or coach, a business operating system, because then you can build properly. You don't have to go back and redo. One of the things that I would highly recommend is go to sharperbusiness.com. And when you go to sharperbusiness.com, you'll get a free assessment. We actually do a business assessment. We'll have it there for free. And you can fill that out. And what it does is it tells you where you are. Like the bigger thing that I find a lot of times, people don't even know where they are. They could have a very productive and very profitable business, but still be running with like a stage 1 operating system, right? Like, so you have to be able to match your operating system to where you are in the growth of your business. And so knowing where you are is really, really important. That's why I recommend you go to sharperbusiness.com, do the free assessment, figure out where you are, figure out where you're hitting plateaus and where you're getting stuck, and then schedule a free call. Like we do consultations all the time for free to get people knowing what they need to do next. And listen, it's not always an answer of like, hire us. Sometimes the answer is like, go to sharpereducation.com and there's $49 a month for like 9 hours of streaming content that you can consume, or go to our YouTube channel, right? And follow us there because we're pushing out 4 to 5 channel things a day. We're on every social media. If you want to know more about me, you can actually go to GaryHarper.com and there's all my social media if you want to follow me there. But there's a lot of different things. But going back to your question, right? The question about like what entrepreneurs are out there. And it's funny because we actually work with about 5 different clients a week, me and my wife, Susan, do. And then I have 17 coaches. So we're constantly working with new people. But the ones that come to mind are the ones that starting with recently that, had a successful business and the market shifted in real estate. And now it's nothing, like it's falling apart. In some cases, some of them are shut down and they call us and there's a pride thing that happens. They're like, they don't want to admit the fact that it's not where it needs to be. There's a couple things that like entrepreneurs always hide. We always hide how much money we're making. We always hide like our success in business, and we always hide like our relationships, right? Like if any of those aren't working, we don't tell people. We don't go out of our way to tell people those things. And so there's a pride thing that starts to come into play. And so I think it's important that, those clients are working with now and the ones that are maybe listening today and they're struggling, like it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. I always tell people when you're stuck, you better ask for help, right? If you don't, you're just going to stay stuck longer. So the question is like, it's not a question of like, will you ask for help? It's how long you'll take to ask for help and how long you're willing to be stuck before you ask for it. Because I get people tell me all the time, like, man, if I would have called you 3 years ago, like if I would have talked to you 2 years ago, I wouldn't have went through this pain or this pain or this pain. And that's the idea. Like get there before it's too painful. And if it is too painful, then man, it's time for a checkup, right? Like let's figure out what we need to do to adjust. Sometimes having somebody look at it from the outside can be so much easier in adjusting than you trying to figure it out on your own. So that's what I would suggest to do, Brett.
Oh my gosh, Gary. Yeah. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to go take your assessment, Gary, and I'm going to see if I can qualify. Because at this point, like I told you, we're growing fast, and we think some systems in place. We do, right, for sure. Some process in place, but you're right. We've done a lot of it on our own in the sense of hiring, or subscribing to something to get some process, or doing like a 3-day like workshop, or all of those types of things. But to have like a coach for the operating system, I mean, to me, it's just where we're at. So I'm hoping that this can work out. So Yep. That being said, I want to shift a little bit into capital gains tax stuff, okay? Because you're with a lot of business owners, right? You're a business owner yourself, and I think we talked about this at the Orlando event. Capital gains tax. You're in Chicago, right? So Illinois, New Jersey, New York, California, these are some of the biggest tax states.
Yep.
What would you say is the biggest frustration when it comes to, building a capital gains tax exit plan that works for the sale of your business, real estate, crypto, be not having to do a 1031 exchange? What would you say is your thoughts on processes on that?
Well, I mean, I think the earlier you start, the better it's going to be for you. Trying to do that stuff at the later stages become very encompassing, and honestly, sometimes it doesn't work, and so you end up paying more capital gains if you decided to sell. So, like the earlier you get into it, like I would honestly recommend a couple different people, but that's not my area of expertise 100%. So I don't try to play there. But what I do try to do is make sure that we bring those people in at the right times early on to make sure that we're putting the processes and procedures in place, and we're designing the business around minimizing that capital gains upon sale, right? And so, like, there's a lot of different companies out there that can help with that. For me personally, what I've always tried to do was limit my risk and exposure in that area by shifting in and utilizing any monies that I'm having come in go into other things that are protected in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, like real estate, by the way, because you can do cost seg, bonus depreciation, offset cap gains tax. As long as you're buying right, and you have the cost seg, you're not taking on too much debt. That's a great way to do this. 1031 exchange are great as well. But there's also a way to do something called a deferred sales trust. If anyone's wondering, works for businesses, real estate, crypto, any asset of any kind, to defer the tax, not have to replace any debt, which is sometimes a challenge with the 1031, and or just the flexibility with timing, right? Being able to take something like real estate and go into a business venture, or a business venture into real estate, non-like kind, crypto, anything else, diversify into multiple asset classes, start businesses, go to capitalgainstaxsolution.com if anyone wants to learn about that. And check out a new book too. We just came out with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. Pretty cool story about how we got started, where we're going, and how we can help you. That being said, Gary, are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready. One last thing I'll say is, you definitely maximize real estate. I mean, McDonald's is a prime example of how they utilize real estate, owning the land, to minimize their capital gains and things like that as well. So I definitely love that. That's where my play has always been. We actually just bought a house the other day in one of our companies just to minimize that, and also for our taxes as well. So I love it. I can't wait to read your book, by the way. I'm excited about that book.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. So let's dive right into the lightning round. So Gary, knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget to make sure to tell yourself to do?
I would say get the right people around me, right? Like, I find that when I was 25 years old, I was an executive and I was already like winning things, but I wasn't making friends, right? So I was just all about winning. And I think one of the keys to success is not about, I think keys to anybody's success is the people they surround themselves with. So get the right people around you that are going to help you scale your business, your life properly, so that you don't have to learn these costly mistakes on your own.
Fantastic. Question number 2, what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Number one book I read, honestly, my greatest book of all time is Go Giver. I love the Go Giver book. I love the Go Giver mindset. But my second favorite would probably be The 4 Secrets of Business Success. And I actually have a book on Amazon too called Is Your Business Sick? But these are books that I like. But yeah, by far, the Go Giver series is by far my favorite books.
Fantastic. Question number 3, what are you most curious about right now?
Most curious about? Honestly, AI. AI's got me so infatuated with it and all the things that it can do and all the possibilities. But yeah, if we're not using AI in our business right now, especially in our processes and development of our companies, we're missing a boat. It's kind of like social media and the internet, like when people didn't want to get on board with it right away, they missed out. And I think that's where we are with AI.
With that being said, what's the number one AI tool or app that you're using right now that's making the biggest difference for you or your clients?
Well, I mean, everybody's using ChatGPT, but there's a software, an AI software called Abstract right now. Abstract AI. It's really good for like sales. It helps you like in the moment, load your scripts. And when you're on a sales call, your people are on sales calls, it actually helps you adjust your message based on how the person is responding and what they're saying in live time. And the other cool thing is if you're like losing the call or you're not going to close it, it'll actually notify your sales supervisor of anywhere you were not compliant or you didn't say the right stuff. It helps you with training afterwards. It actually gives you a score of how well you did on the call and what the suggestions were. So I love that kind of tools. I love that software. Anything that makes us more proficient and more productive makes us better. I love. And I think that's where AI is taking us.
How do you spell that? Just, I don't know if I caught that.
Yeah. Abstract. I think it's ABSTRACT, abstract.ai.
Okay, fantastic. Absolutely love that. I wrote that one down. Second to last question. What's the number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
What's my number one leadership quote? I have so many, man. You just asked me that question, like 40 things came to my mind. But I think for me, it's got to have something to do with great, successful people surround themselves with successful people. One of my favorite statements.
Perfect. Excellent. Love that quote. Last question. Gary, after all the success you've had, helping all the people you've helped, what's the number one practice that you try to practice habits to stay centered in your values and then stay encouraged to charge forward to even reach higher heights?
I allow myself to be vulnerable to people. I allow everybody to know what's going on in my life, so I'm held accountable to my standards. And so, like, people have access to my email, they have access to my phone, they have access to everything. My family has access to all that stuff to keep me protected. So, like, I think vulnerability is the key to it.
Amazing. Gary, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I'm better for it. I know our listeners are too. I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom. I want to thank you for being having a heart to give back, to help people create systems, processes, make a difference, unlock their purpose, unlock their gifts with the daily tactical, the performance, the profits, the purpose. Absolutely amazing. Would you remind people one last time about your books that are coming out, the release date? Everyone get the book. I'm getting the book. You need the book. You know you do after you listen to this, right? This is so good. When are the books coming out, and then where people can find you, Gary?
Yeah, they're coming out November the 14th at 6 p.m. We're having a launch party, a Zoom launch party. People are welcome to join. Just email me at gharper@sharperprocess if you want to be on that Zoom and get be a part of the celebration. I'd love to be honoring, honestly. But there's 2 books, The Journey to Rise and 4 Quadrants of Business Success. And so the 2 books will be coming out the same day. If you want to follow me more on social, you can go to GaryHarper.com. It has a link to all my information there. And then sharperbusiness.com is our website, along with Sharper Process. So a couple different businesses we have there, but a lot of different ways to get in touch with us. And we'll look forward to hearing from you.
Gary, thank you so much. And I want to thank you to our listeners for listening to the episode of the Capital Gains Tax News Podcast, also streaming Expert CRE Secrets as well, where we believe not having a clear plan when you exit highly appreciated assets or not having a clear plan for your business operating system and improving it, all right, is the enemy, right? And working with strategies and people to help you implement exit plans and or operating systems is something you're never going to regret, and it's going to be great, right? You can defer the capital gains tax, you can create and preserve more wealth, you can unlock your purpose and your profits. So 2 action items. If you want to exit something right now, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's what we specialize in. And if you want to grow your business, you already know where to find Gary, which is at his website, sharperprocesses.com. Thank you, everybody. Please share this with somebody. It can change their life. I believe Gary was put on this podcast to do just that, to help people right now. So share it